Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to session number 2. After a few technical difficulties, we're back in business, as I say, and ready to start talking about the very fascinating topics that we have been discussing over these 2 weeks in the course. What I want to do tonight is start all over from my initial plan and cover a few topics that I happen to believe are essential for our understanding of the course and the basic ideas that we're supposed to be learning. I will be, adding examples and anecdotal references and things like that have direct reference to what we are doing. And the rest of the time, I would like to hear about you, your questions, your comments, any ideas or things that you would like to share with the rest of the class. We will be using this format. I hope that is much better than the other thing. About a year and a half ago, I was teaching in Canada. I was teaching an online course, guess what, in international marketing. And I used to run those sessions from home, and it was nice and easy. But yesterday, it didn't work at all. I'm not going to blame Telmex. Well, I'm not sure about that. But in the meantime, we want to be on the safe side and make sure that you guys will have a crisp, clean image and also voice. Okay, and that's the idea. Anyway, what is it that we're going to be dealing with throughout the course? The notion that marketing is a fascinating way of understanding how to conduct a business. For many people, marketing is a holistic way of understanding business. A business is essentially about 2 things: how to sell things and make money, and how to manage that money. In other words, how to sell things and make money, that will be marketing, and how to manage and make a profit out of that, that will be finance. So 2 main processes running a business would be that. The rest of the organization serves those 2 ultimate things. And we can make perfect sense of that when we look at an income statement, a financial statement called income statement, estado de resultados, in which what we see essentially is the bottom line, the EBITDA or the profit, as the financial effect of the top line, which is sales. So what is it that we have? We have sales, basic income, gross income after deducting essential operational expenditures. Then comes the management and how we take the management money out of the equation and then arrive into what would be a gross profit. And then financial considerations would turn that net profit into EBITDA or whatever other way you want to call it. Yeah. So what is the message? We have sales, and then we have the notions of production, and then we have the notions of human resources and finance and all that stuff. And then finally, the net result on the financial strategy. So market and financial considerations are of essential importance in every business, okay? So we are here probably to serve the guys in finance. And that is why I was telling you that you should pay a lot of attention to your finance courses, because they will be very important in your way of thinking, in your way of analyzing, in your way of arriving into sound decision making, that kind of stuff, okay? So having said that, what we have is essentially a migration from the traditional notions of marketing into culture-based and strongly influenced by the environment kind of cultural influences. Let me be a bit more precise. Traditional marketing would be about what? About, catering to consumers. What we do is we add complexity to that notion by means of tackling 2 things. Understanding that the business environment is way more complex when you go international, and also within that business environment, one major element of prime importance, which is consumer culture. In addition to consumer psychology that we have in traditional thing, and sociology, meaning group theory, collectivity, we have yet a more aggregated level of analysis. That would be culture. So psychology is about the individual. Sociology is about groups. Anthropology and culture is about aggregates, national aggregates, probably defined by stuff like language, nationality, religion, ethnic origin, and that kind of meta aggregate ways of understanding consumers. So when we have an issue of language, marketing becomes a completely new business. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And that is why we need to somehow understand the difference between traditional marketing and cultural marketing. Now, regarding some of the elements of chapter 1, just to finish that thing, some people would say, hey, Salvador, I'm still confused between global and international marketing. You have a reason to be confused. Most people are not capable of telling the difference between the two and use those two terms indistinctively. Mistakenly, if I'm a little purist, a little orthodox, but frequently. In other words, people will say global marketing, international marketing, transnational marketing, as if they were talking about the same thing. And they probably are, because, I mean, if you are very strict, international marketing is a subset of global marketing. International marketing is a previous step into globalization. But essentially, let's be very clear about the difference between the two of them, because you're taking this course and you gotta be, you have to feel comfortable speaking about the two. International marketing has to do with the transactional elements of putting international marketing strategy into more than one business setting. Whereas global marketing has to do with the notion of the so-called global village. You have heard this a lot, so many times, a lot of times. Global village. La aldea global, as we also understand that in Spanish. The global village. In other words, the market is but one. Globalized, connected, and universally driven. Let me use a very, off the charts kind of example. What is an international case? Well, that would be Luis Miguel, giving a concert in Las Vegas. That would be catering from Mexico to the U.S. To the very specific audience, very wacky one of Mexicans flying abroad to actually listen to a guy singing in Spanish in Las Vegas in the Mexican anniversary of the independence. Surreal, huh? Well, let me move from Luis Miguel going international to the U.S. to Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga, who I heard on the news related to celebrities that she is going to be working to do it with Psy. What is that guy? Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. I don't even know how to sing that stuff. In other words, these are global phenomena. These are global phenomena. Lady Gaga is not exactly American. I mean, there could be fellows in South Korea listening to Lady Gaga at the very same moment we are actually doing the same thing. When you think about globalized, you approach the world as a single market, and you sell your product wherever, whenever there is a customer willing to buy it, irrespective of nationality, barriers, borders, language, religion, whatever. Okay, take this for instance. It's a totally globalized product. Why? Because it's probably the same. Can you take me to the? This is probably the same stuff that is sold anywhere in the civilized world. Let me say the Occidental world. Hey, give me a break. This is a South Korean product. There might be more users of Samsung products in Asia than will ever be in the whole of Latin America or America, including the U.S. In other words, what is this? It's essentially the same gadget sold exactly in the same way. And I think, what is cultural about this product? Maybe the case. Maybe this is the case. But then again, I'm an executive. Look at me. Bring the image back to me, please. Look at me. I look like I don't know, a J.C. Penney kind of dress guy. In other words, what I am is essentially a would-be American executive kind of guy living in Mexico. So what you have is a very interesting, fascinating set of influences. Okay, so international, transactional, global. The whole thing is important. International, step by step, region by region, geography, and other barrier considerations are important. Global, no. The world is flat, as Thomas Friedman would say. So that's the difference, okay? I hope that I'm being clear with that. It's just a matter of approach. People tend to use global more often than international because international has the connotation of being a bit more technical. They're probably right, okay? That's it. Same thing with trade, commerce, and marketing. What is that? Well, essentially the same thing. It's just a trade would be used by maybe people in the finance area or commerce in the econ area, economists, and we would use marketing, to specifically speak about the same thing. So aside semantic considerations, what we have is essentially that thing. Now, what do we want to learn about that? Well, I want you to go back to chapter 1 and focus on the last paragraph. The last paragraph gives you what really matters about this thing, which is the global or international, if you want to use whatever make you feel okay, orientation. Orientation. What separates the mindset of rich countries from poor countries. The orientation is the mental departure from a survival mode, from a poverty level standard of doing business. That's what we need to change as Latin American countries. That is the mindset that we need to move aside. We need to learn how to play baseball in the major leagues. Let me tell you something. We already play baseball in the major leagues. We just have to believe that we can do it. Okay, so there's an incredibly important psychological component behind this thing that is not written in the textbook, but that you guys need to realize. Your businesses are supposed to be designed to compete globally effectively. But what's the situation in Latin America? Where should I start? The size of the stock market. New York Stock Exchange, it's 500 times bigger than the Mexican bourse. 500 times. Understand that? So if you were to go public and use capital from financial instruments to leverage your operations, are you going to have access to capital? Is capital going to be affordable and available to you? That's Mexico, one of the top 3 countries in the whole, in the whole region. What would happen in other countries? See, our challenge is very cumbersome, but it is not impossible. You need to understand that what we do with this class somehow has to elevate what we do to a level of higher and better competitiveness. So the whole thing starts here. And we have a very serious problem. Why? Because old-timers running the businesses, your bosses, your parents, your partners, are, old-fashioned mode thinking. No, forget about that. Let's try to offer whatever advantages for subsidized and protectionism our governments offer to us. Let us just keep to our business. Why do you want to go abroad? It's too risky. We don't even know that thing. We don't even speak the language. That is the wrong thinking. The wrong thinking. And that is doing a lot of damage to our countries. Do you really believe that the Koreans and the Chinese speak good English? Really? Really? So what are you waiting for? You need to do that thing. Now, speaking about that, your final project, on what basis are you going to choose the country you're going to be working for? And what is it that you are going to be using as a criterion for your, international global activity, operational mode? Are you going to go and export some tomatoes with a banana republic kind of approach? Or are you going to start thinking high level, probably thinking about, joining and, in a partnership with some local, partner, or building a different way of doing things, or selling your expertise in a franchise licensing kind of agreement? What kind of business model are you going to bring into the table Don't give me the good old conventional stuff. We're gonna sell staples and commodities because they're cheap and abundant. That's what what is that stuff that is supposed to be miraculous? Moringa, really? Moringa. Well, turn that stuff into some synthetic, component, and then sell it. Don't sell the little yerbita, okay? Because that would be terrible, pathetic. Okay. So try to understand how to sophisticate your strategy so it will be competitive, and it will give to you, to your company, and to you opportunities to thrive financially. Okay. So let's go to chapter 12, in which we start looking at some of these ideas, because what we need is to somehow land the notion of these different mindsets. Okay. And the book has wonderful elements in chapter 12 that you guys can stop, reflect about them, and internalize, so you can understand what is it that we are dealing with and talking about. Let me try to run this little experiment, and it might work. Can you take me back? Thank you. So what you have is Exhibit 12.1. You remember that? Excellent. Thank you. What we have is the so-called international planning process. Okay. So what we have here is two basic elements. Let us just read them out loud to see. Preliminary analysis and screening. Second, adapting the marketing mix to target markets. 3, developing the marketing plan. And 4, measuring and evaluation, implementation and evaluation. So what we have is here, again, are we ready? Are we ready to go international? Are we? Do we have what it takes? 2, how are we going to make our way of doing business as usual different? 3, how are we going to execute? And 4, how are we going to measure our success or failure? Again, are we ready? Are we ready to go abroad? What is it that we need to do, that we need to change, that we need to transform in order to be ready to go abroad? Number 2, what is it that we are going to do about this? We will be discussing this topic extensively. Why? Because this is one of the most important decisions to make. Bring it back to me, please. Are we going to sell the same Coca-Cola, or are we going to reformulate that Coca-Cola? Am I going to take my Coca-Cola to that other country exactly the way it is, or am I going to somewhat or radically adapt it? Don't answer me. There's no single answer to that question. What I'm referring to is something referred in literature as the so-called the adaptation versus standardization dilemma. And what it is a dilemma. It's something that you are going to struggle to come to terms with. This is no easy thing for you, no easy bone to chew. It is very difficult to do that. Let's for a moment pretend that this is okay. This is identical. Technologically, it's identical. Really? How about the telecommunications infrastructure? Really? Are you going to leave this thing exactly the way it is when there's poor infrastructure, no bandwidth, adequate bandwidth or something? Or are you going to end up changing some internal components of this thing just to make it workable, that thing? Now, the price is so expensive in some other countries. Are you going to build a somewhat lesser expensive version, like iPhone, by the way, just did, and you know that on the news? It's not that simple. Taking the same product or adapting it is a very difficult, thoughtful process that you need to learn how to resolve. When we talk about the P of product, remember the 4 Ps when you go into international? We will discuss those ideas to a much better extent. So going back to Exhibit 1, are we ready? The dilemma of adaptation and standardization, execution, evaluation. That's it. Traditional strategic management, just in the context of marketing. And this is a very interesting checklist of things that you need to somehow learn about your business before you go international. This is so important because your business, when you decide to go abroad, will never, ever be the same. You need to become the change agent in your company. If you want to go abroad, your business will never, ever be the same. It'll be continuous transformation from the moment you decided to go international on. And if you want to go global, forget it. It's rewrite the whole business model thing. That is why these checklists are so valuable, because this is a comprehensive review of all the stuff that you need to keep in the back of your mind before you do. Is it the same philosophy for a domestic company than an international one? The same objectives is you're going to be selling, for instance, your processes instead of your product. In other words, you're going to go for a licensing agreement or franchising. Are your objectives going to be the same? Same thing with resources, management style. Are you going to add cultural elements to that? How about discrimination for women? Just to give you one little thing. And how about protection of workers, that kind of stuff? It is completely a different set of rule games. Games of the game rules. That's what I meant to say. Okay, there's one question that did not come up with the name here, but the first question has arrived, and I do thank the person who came up with this question. It says here, Chapter 12 mentioned that only 9 companies from the Fortune 500 are truly global. Due to the management approach, very interesting and shocking comment. So the old-fashioned mode thinking is more deeply engaged in the USA as well, and is it ethnocentric? Yes, with one exception. The U.S. sells a lifestyle. They don't sell products. They sell Hollywood. They sell fast food. They sell music. They sell technology. They sell that kind of stuff. Mining in general. Airplanes, turbines, nuclear plants, that kind of stuff. So it's so big, so incredible in scope, that what you need to understand and realize is that those companies who are truly global are. But by the way, let's refer to to more specifically to what Cateora is actually talking about. What Cateora says is what you are saying, that many companies pretend to be global, but their mindset is ethnocentric. In other words, they see the U.S. as the core business and the other stuff as a hassle. Why? Because 60, 70, 80% of their income comes from the States. 20%, 30% comes from abroad. And they saw that as an additional market. But what happens when the stuff flips around, like Coca-Cola or whatever, any other company that would eventually understand that the rest of the world as a whole is way more valuable than the U.S. or North America and Europe, if you may, or the English-speaking countries. But any of those considerations, they start thinking in a different way. But what that comment in the book is, refers to is the mindset of executives who are really, really into the idea of getting, and catering to customers whenever they are, but internally to cater to the talent wherever that human resource talent happens to be located. They erase the notion of everything. Headquarters in the U.S., why? Top executives from our country, why? Our native language, the language of use in the company, why? That kind of stuff, okay? It's a mindset. Great question. Let me just move. Okay, so what is it, can we go back to this thing? What is it that we have learned about this? Couple of things. One, are we ready? Two, the dilemma of adaptation versus standardization, execution, evaluation. And the second thing is the mindset. The mindset and the extent of the internal change that you need to do, you need to undergo in order for you to be ready about this. So I happen to believe that many Latin American companies are stuck in this kind of mode. Now, examples of Latin American companies who are not in this kind of stuff. Let me start. I'm just experiencing a little. There you go. I dropped my microphone. Let me just put it back to where it belongs, and we're back in business. Okay. Uh, Sounds okay? Okay, good. Let's just start rolling this thing a little bit. Okay, what we have is a fascinating Nicaraguan company called Casa Telas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write Grupo Telas, .com, and I'm going to go to the page, and I'm going to show it to you, okay? I don't need the sound, okay? That's for you, my friend. Okay, where's English here? English. They do have, and I hate Latin American web pages without an English version. Why? Why do you do that? Don't ever do that. It is so lame, so primitive. If you don't have enough money to put some bilingual person to do this kind of stuff, you don't. You know what I mean? It's just terrible that a Latin American company does not have an English version of its website. Okay, by the way, now that I told you that, I need to somehow find the English one for this thing. There you go. English version. It's the message from the president to investors, essentially. Okay, this is what the history of the company is like. Reading one of those Harvard cases. Okay, what it says is, I'm just going to read a little bit about this president's letter, whatever you want to call it. It is with great pleasure that I cordially invite you to our internet home, the good old hospitality and mannerisms of Latin America. If you were American, you would say, welcome, okay? Your visit allows us to show you one of the most important and diversified business conglomerates in Central America and beyond. They do not define their market as Nicaragua. Central America and beyond. Why Central America? Because they know that that's the region they own. They own that region. Want to do business in Central America? Come with me. Come with me. That aggressive stance is fantastic. It's incredibly good. Okay? The Pelas Group companies are widespread and contribute to the development of their respective communities in various countries. In other words, we're not in the business of working for Nicaragua anymore. And what countries are they talking about? Very interesting. This is a Nicaraguan company catering to the communities in the U.S., Grand Cayman, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, and of course our homeland, because they've got to be proud of what they do, Nicaragua. Do you really believe that this presents a lame, loser, what is that? Exculpatory version of Nicaragua. In other words, have some consideration and pity on me. Forget it. If you were to read this and you were a South Korean, you say, hey, Nicaragua is an interesting country. I mean, people think has a very aggressive business mindset just by looking at this very instance. Our companies encourage development in various sectors. The diversification we will be referring to when we get into the strategic section 2. From agro-industrial field to IT software and computer distribution, as well as automotive, production and marketing of liquors, bank loan services, credit card approval, telecommunication services, and entertainment, real estate services, along with security and productivity of free trade zones. Okay. Enough of that. Grupo Pelas, you can find out about them a little more if you want. Norma Colombia. Grupo Norma. Not working. Hello? It's thinking. It's kind of slow. Anyway, who are these guys and what do they do? It's a paper-based conglomerate with a lot of different interests. Oh, there you go. I finally have. And the moment you start selecting the country, the moment you go international to whatever way of understanding what you want to do. Okay, if you want to again think about them, what they have is a very interesting set of marketing, products. The facade of this corporation is, by the way, they found my URL as based in Mexico, and I'm sorry, my cookies and everything. They geo-referenced my computer and found out that I was in Mexico. That is very sophisticated. And again, what you have here is essentially a very aggressive, commercially speaking, corporation with a lot of different product lines, and of course, a very sophisticated way of understanding that thing. And they, of course, you have the country, but the most important thing is the targets, the consumer segments they happen to be catering, irrespective of whether they happen to be located. What is this? 12, maybe 15 countries. Again, their countries of major influence would be the region, South America. If you go global and you go with them, of course, what you have is a different set of stuff. It didn't switch to English, but I'm sure that if I find this thing, I will find that what I'm telling. And sorry about my insistence of using English. I just happen to believe that it's modern Esperanto. I mean, the world speaks English, and that is why we're doing this. It's kind of crazy, huh? You and I speak Spanish. It's our native language, and here we are speaking English, okay? So, end of the lesson, end of the point. Grupo Norma, incredibly good, very, very powerful Colombian industrial concern. Let me just move into what is this? The guy who have the water containers. What is this? Rotoplas. Rotoplas. There's two Rotoplas. Rotoplas and Rotoplas with a T. Okay, Rotoplas would be Mexican. Rotoplas with a T happen to be Colombian or Argentinian or something like that. Let me just move into Rotoplas. There you go. And again, very professional company. And if you go and check Rotoplas International, you would go and find some other menu with, again, a lot of different things. This is Rotoplas Argentina, and it looks very similar, but it is essentially different in terms of what they do and what they cater and the kind of business that they happen to be, working with. And what they have is, again, segments rather than geographic markets, okay? Professional and home. And what you do is you go to them, and of course you would find content that is it standardized or adapted? I don't know. You tell me. We are not foolish enough as to generalize about a company like this. Why? Water is not the same thing, in every country. And the water distribution systems in our countries are vastly different because of infrastructure, corruption, a number of considerations, and even the notion of water. Whether water is an available thing or happens to be scarce, whether water is universally available and free, or it's difficult to get and relatively speaking expensive. So Rotoplas is another one. There are so many companies. I'm not going to use Cemex. I'm not going to use the traditional ones to do this. Even countries, complete countries like Chilean wines have an incredibly sophisticated ways of doing things. I mean, wines of Chile, there you go. Beautiful, beautiful. It's so aggressive. So like buy my wine and forget about the rest of the world. And by the way, look how beautiful my country happens to be. And of course, all you want to know about this thing, you want to become a connoisseur, you want to brag about your knowledge of Chilean wine, they would do everything to impress you in that kind of fashion. Okay, so fascinating, very interesting way of you to understand how to what we do in Latin America could be world-class marketing, strategy. We are not here yet for us to start understanding the strategies, global strategies there, because we're just beginning the course. You guys have not been into the strategy part, in which we will be making very specific judgments about situations like this. Bear with me. We will get there as soon as we cover the material, okay? But in the meantime, what I want to tell you is that this is incredible stuff. I mean, by the way, co-branding with the country, and of course, featuring so many different brands, which, by the way, happen to be so beautiful aesthetically. I mean, aesthetically speaking, it's just everything is beautiful. Why? Because attention to care, to detail, care to have a very interesting, sophisticated image from which to base the whole, marketing strategy. And of course, what you will see here is just beautiful. Okay, let me go back to our presentation and let you know about the second big idea of chapter 12. Can we go back to this thing, please? There you go. So if exhibit 12.1 was very important and a good summary of the very first part of chapter 12, we want to move into this one, 12.2, which in my opinion is also one, even more important than the other one. What is this? Well, that's what I was trying to explain when I had to interrupt my class. There's very poor and narrow-minded way of understanding how to go international, and there's sophisticated ways in which you end up owning the global, markets with your products, with way more complex and, of course, more effective ways of conducting business abroad. In other words, if you take one person who knows very little about this thing, who has very little, if any, business education, and you ask them, hey, we have to go international, their natural instinct would be to do this, direct or indirect exporting. Forget about the internet. They don't even know how to do that. The internet would be justifiable to some extent. This is just pathetic. I'm not saying that you should not do this, but you should never stop at this point, unless, of course, what you want to sell is bananas, a banana republic. What you want to sell is copper, instead of copper wiring, or electricity grids, or home system electricity systems, or the service that come with that, or the engineering that comes with that. That, by the way, all of those happen to believe in the bottom part of this thing. So I could die at ease if you guys would understand this idea. To me, that's the most important thing that you have to keep in the back of your mind about this course. What makes the difference between you and the rest of the fellows is that you understand this path, and that you would get there irrespective of how long would it take, and that your business planning and your business vision and your marketing strategies are geared towards scaling up into this logical chain of international and global evolution. Okay? So let me start. What is it that we have here? It's the so-called entry mode strategies. The book refers to them as alternative market entry strategies. But as I told you last night, they're also known as entry modes. And we can look at them, we can understand them and approach them as if they were like a ladder. So what we have here is the most basic way of conducting an entry mode, which is exporting. Limited, expensive, risky, troublesome for a lot of trade restrictions. Yet, this is the most common way of doing business, of course, because production factors tend to be, anchored in geographical locations. So we have to, at some point, physically move products from one point into another. But don't be fooled like that. Companies who are making business are trying to climb this up because there's money to be made. the moment you start doing this, because you will end up selling your product, basically transporting your product from one point A into of origin A into one point B of consumption. But eventually, what you would do is start selling again your expertise. So let me talk a little bit about exporting. The book would refer to exporting as direct and indirect. This is supposed to be self-explanatory. You actually take the business of doing this. Some other company, like a customs agent or something, would do this for you. Someone else will take care of this because you are so afraid or you are so careless that you don't even care about that. I have heard a lot of stories of companies that actually export reluctantly, or the only motivation is to actually make dollars, which is also kind of foolish. But anyway, what we have is a second level. It's you start to somehow looking at the market not as something that you cater indirectly. You start making an investment. And the very first thing you invest into is a sales operation. So what you do is you start a distribution business. And for that, what you need is a couple of things: inventories, and you need management. You need people there. So this is way more sophisticated than that. This is what the book refers to: distributor and direct sales. So what you have, it's like a beachhead. You start putting, stepping and into the market with somewhat higher commitment than you would have at this level. And then something even more sophisticated. Let's for a moment pretend that you are very good domestically and you ended up having an ISO 9000, ISO 4000 sustainability, that kind of stuff, that you have all your processes streamlined, that you have a beautiful, terrific operations manual, that you have all these critical processes, that you run your business, your processes in SAP or some other, software that would somehow keep control of that. Then you're ready to start selling not your product, but your processes, and you move into the franchising mode. In other words, what you sell, again, is your black box, your way of doing business, your technology, your know-how, your brand, reputation, and so on. This could be one way. Another way would be what? To go and get into the world of strategic alliances. Which is a fancy word to refer to something quite simple. Why should you do it alone? Find a partner. And then finally, the most sophisticated way of international business activity, the one that I choose for my example last Monday, okay, this Monday, foreign direct investment, or as the book referred to it, direct foreign investment. You go and buy the freaking business in the other country and start conducting business. This is an acquisition, a merger, a joint venture. Any of these arrays would somehow lead you into the notions of that kind of stuff. Why don't we merge and create a company? Well, the thing is, sometimes you don't have enough money to buy the whole company. So what you do is you become a shareholder. As simple as that. Or you merge and create a company. Or you start, putting a joint venture would be what? Company A gets together with company B to create company C. So that's what you do. But at any rate, at any cost, in any circumstance, what you do, you end up doing a very heavy investment. And again, why are we giving you this program? Why are we educating you for? From here and on. From here up. This is what is expected from you, from an MBA. An ability to do the thing. Forget that. I don't know how to do it. What? Do you really believe that anybody ever had an opportunity to learn these things in some classroom? You have to be bold and daring and do it, okay? You have to go to fairs and trade shows and make your product visible. You have to be able to deal with cumbersome and difficulty challenges, which, by the way, would be very thrilling and entertaining to you, because I know your mindset. It's the MBA mindset. Salvador, don't be such an arrogant prick. Okay. The world is for the daring, and you understand that. And out of any cheap philosophy, 9 o'clock in the night, the point is quite simple. We have no choice. If we don't conduct this kind of sophisticated business, someone else will do it for us. And guess what? If we don't go, it will come. Period. Way stronger than we are. So what do? I'm not going to sleep tonight, Salvador. Start thinking about the future. Move from operational and executional mode into visionary, strategic thinking, long-term view. How is your business going to look like 20 years from now, 10 years from now? Which direction are you going to take this business to? Which way? What strategic alliances could you start making with other countries? See, my friends from Peru, pisco sour is supposed to be the big national thing. It's your cuisine. You start putting Peruvian restaurants like crazy in the US and Europe, and you will be filthy rich. And by the way, what are you going to take? Some yuca or some ingredient? Forget it. Take the whole thing and take the chef and make it sophisticated and expensive, pricey, and therefore desirable, coveted. That's the idea. Now, so putting together business models is what we learn in chapter 12. And that is why I want you guys to start making sense and keeping a very solid idea of these things. I'm not going to read them from you in the chapter. It's very, it's very time consuming. Well, do your reading, my friend. Just do it. Why is that? Because this is the chance in which you would be doing this. The course that I used to teach before this one was Completing to Strategy, and we would have a lot of time to work on each and every one of these modes. I don't have the time here because I will be working advertising, channels, branding, internet marketing, e-commerce, that kind of stuff. I mean, the stuff that somehow you guys wanted me to deal with, and traditional marketing content. What we are looking at is planning and strategy at an aggregated management strategy level rather than a global marketing strategy level. That's the point that I'm trying to make. So just cover the materials. It'll take you a couple of good hours. It'll be sound time investment, and a sound investment of time. Okay, so do that and start making sense of that. And ask me your questions if you have any. Okay, do we have any more questions? No? Oh, one. Send me your questions for we are about to finish. While we get the other question, final project. Paola Gutierrez, yes. Good to talk to you again, Paola. Good evening, Professor. How a small-sized company can adapt a product to a new culture? The process could be painful and expensive. What are your recommendations for a small company that is brave to cross the line and bring the product to overseas? Okay, let's be sophisticated. Go to that country, find out about those channels of distribution, and start backwards rather than upwards. Start understanding the end elements of selling and consumption, and start building your way back up. Okay? Backing up. In other words, find points of sale and consumption in that country. By the way, try to find a partner, try to find that kind of stuff, and understand the critical route, the critical map, the critical path that you need to follow in order for you to do that. But what it takes is time for you to go abroad and try to get yourself familiarized with that business setting. It's like what you had to do. Let me tell you something. You said adapt the product to a new culture. The process could be painful and expensive. Wasn't your initial process of launching your product domestically also painful and expensive? It's an investment. Painful and investment and expensive means an investment of time, energy, resources. So go do it. Understand that thing. By the way, in your final project, you will have a complete section on channels in which you are supposed to be that kind of research. By the way, due to natural limitations, we would be conducting internet research. I would not, well, I don't know, pick the fancy country if you want to go to that. I mean, some place you want to go. Would that be silly, huh? Out of any jokes, we will be doing this kind of stuff, using secondary sources of information as a way for us to try to build a case on how to successfully cater to consumers using channels of distribution. Your channels of distribution, you need to have a minimum influence on them. And if you are international, your position is very weak compared to domestic competitors. So you had better have a very keen understanding of what is it that you are going to be offering for people to pay a little extra for your product. So start with the channels of distribution and work your way backwards into understanding how to take the product there. Okay, Paula? Another question. Tanya Gomez, when talking about globalization, I really like the Nestle concept. Yes, so did I. Evolution, not revolution. However, to be able to do that, it looks like a company has to have a big budget. What do you think? Yes. It's always nice to have a big, chunky budget. It's always nice. But then again, the chance that you have to waste much of that money is also very present. When you are frugal, when you have scant resources, you are forced to be very, very efficient on what you do and to think twice before you come up with any move. I mean, a lot of companies spend tons of money into stupid stuff that actually ended up in some drawer, as a failed project. Very few times, you would see a case in which people would actually suffer the consequences of making a mistake like that. Many companies are very, I would say, very relaxed, very, not critical about their own way of thinking. Yes, having a big budget will always be to your advantage if you know how to spend that kind of money. Nestle is a big multinational corporation that is already there. Okay, so of course, if you're working for them or you want to join them and working for them, your mode would be that of an executive. We tend to have the mindset of an entrepreneur in this class. But with that mindset of an executive, of course, it'll be very nice. Now, evolution, not revolution, has to do with a long-term investment kind of view. Okay, revolution is to come radically, disruptively change stuff in the short run. Evolution is the Darwinian process. I mean, it's a process of gaining experience curves, acquiring knowledge, wisdom, and the ability for you to start, negotiating your way with the environment, and of course, growing from that, approach, which, by the way, takes a lot of commitment too from top management. So yeah, it helps to have a big budget, but it doesn't mean that if you don't have it, it's the end of the world. It's just a different way of thinking. It's the so-called guerrilla marketing approach. Google this, and you will know what I'm talking about. Guerrilla marketing approach. J. Conrad Livingstone, who is this guy who come up with the book Guerrilla Marketing? That's what you have. Small businesses need this kind of approach. It's not latest marketing thinking. This stuff has been there since the 80s or something. So do not expect to have fast, avant-garde ideas. It's just that This is for small size businesses. Carlos Weber, big budgets are not a guarantee. Microsoft former campaigns with Bill Gates and Seinfeld is an example. Yes, we're ashamed of our marketing team. Okay, I see why, Carlos, and I see your point, and that's exactly what we were discussing. Sometimes having too much money and end up working to your disadvantage, as ironic as it sounds. And you guys are, also trying to be very rational about your resources. So, be at ease with yourselves. Use your judgment and your ability to judge, and do not accept and do not compromise for sloppy projects which are not well-rounded financially. Okay? You understand that. I don't have to explain that. Okay? So it's a matter of attitude too. Time's running short for me, my friends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time speaking about your final project, which is very important. Okay? Let me see if I have here, which I believe I do, the slides for the final project. Give me a sec. Okay. You probably have already found this the textbook website, and what you will find is that there's something called the student edition. Okay, right here, student edition. Just go there, and you will find all the PowerPoints that I used for class here. Which, by the way, this is not an excuse for you to skip your reading, if you know what I mean. And also with that, you have completely free the writing guide of your country notebook. This is your challenge, my friend, okay? And this is what I told you on my videos and also on my first class. If you want to say that you did know about this class, irrespective of your final mark, of your final grade, what you want to know is essentially how to conduct one of these babies, okay? This is the basic ability that you will learn from this course, okay? The so-called country notebook. A guide for developing a marketing plan. Okay, what we have here is an outline with a cultural analysis, economic analysis, market audit and competitive market analysis, and preliminary marketing plan. The so-called 4 phases, 4 sections of your final project. Let's for a moment visualize this thing. It'll have a fancy cover page, lots of pictures. I want your final project to be very graphic. So write this thing right now in your notes. Graphic. Profuse use of pictures and imagery, charts and photographs and that kind of stuff. If your report is boring, I will penalize you. Okay? I'm not kidding. You're an executive. You have very little chance to sell your ideas. Do not compromise, content for an excessive use of, pictures, but do use them. Use them, okay? Anyway, going back to this thing, what we have is essentially the most comprehensive guideline that you would ever see. This is crazy. Look at all this stuff. Look at all this. Oh, overwhelming. Overwhelming. Just the item of religion and aesthetics has like 5 points. Oh, there you go. No, it's 9, 10 points, whatever, okay? Just the so-called living conditions item, or, it's again 5 elements and that kind of stuff. So comprehensive, you would not believe your eyes. Okay, this is just, what is this? What is this? Culture? And then we move into what is that? Number 2, economic analysis. And again, off you go. All this stuff is just incredibly comprehensive. That's the beauty of this thing. so big that you would get an opportunity to go to the level of detail that you definitely want to go and elaborate on each and every one of these. And 3, market audit and competitive market analysis, the so-called market research part in which you would prepare your ideas in marketing, the elements that you need to somehow research in order for you to put together your marketing plan. And then finally, the so-called preliminary marketing plan, that would be your good old marketing plan with what? Objectives, targets, and the 4 Ps. Okay? Good old stuff. Of course, with adaptations and standardizations, depending on your approach to this thing. So what is your challenge? Okay, first, if you start copy-pasting this thing and filling these sections up blindly without any thinking, I'm going to give you an F, because you did not do any thinking at all. If you start blindly following this thing without challenging every one of these items, then you did not do the right thing. Salvador, how do I do that? Good point. So let's start from the beginning. First, what country do you want to work with? Okay, there's 2, 3. I'm not going to say no to everyone except your own country, of course. That'll be silly. Except your own country, okay? With that exception, you can go anywhere. But I need to understand why you picked that country. And you would do that analysis at the very beginning in the cultural thing. You would sell the country culturally for me, or to me. I have to read and say, oh, of course, this is fantastic. Makes a lot of sense. I'm going to start giving you sources of information for you to start, researching about that. Well, you need to get together with your teammates and make up your mind as of next week. Otherwise, it's going to be a little too late. As of next week, there's 250 countries in the whole planet, Salvador. What do I do? Trust the force. I mean, come up with whatever motivation you want to do. Is it personal, professional, something you know about that country, some keen interest you want to have, you want to move there. It's the U.S. and you want to do business in the U.S. It's the Europe. I don't care. It's a neighboring country. It's up to you. I just need the rational. And the product, you or company or hence service, good service idea, whatever. You're not going to take a politician abroad, not yet. But a good or a service, anything that could be sold, anything with a brand, anything established in your country would be taken abroad. Fascinating countries, very challenging ones. Of course, the so-called BRIC, okay? The so-called BRIC, okay? BRIC. Brazil, Russia, India, China. Tough, countries to do business with. Corruption, a lot of externalities, as your, econ professionals will tell you. What is the NIST? Mexico, if you're not Mexican, of course. Indonesia, Singapore, and Turkey. The triad. T-R-I-A-D, triad, like triada, the triad. Japan, USA, Canada, Western, which is now 25 countries, Europe. Where do you want to do business? Asian. You want to go to Muslim, Islamic countries? Okay. Maybe United Arab Emirates? Maybe, I don't know. You tell me. I need an irrational. I need a product that you will feel comfortable with. A branded product could be B2B, B2C, industrial, or consumer directed. and I need the country for next week, okay? For next week, I need that rational. And you start looking at this thing, and this is what I want you guys to do. It'll be, again, sound investment of your time. Read this thing, spend an hour reading the whole thing, okay? Get yourself familiarized with the structure, the section explanations, and the items. And then in a second fast reading, highlight those you feel personally interested in developing. And they should be, to the most, 50% of these items. 50% of these items. Okay? To the most. In other words, you need to reduce this thing. You would probably sacrifice a few of these things. And for instance, economic statistics and activity, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's K. 12, 13, 14, 15 with inflation rate. Maybe labor force is not relevant in your case. Wipe it out. Wipe it out. Maybe trade restrictions are minor. Spend very little time with that. Maybe the extent of economic activity not included in cash income activities like counter trade. Counter trade is a very specific situation. Rule it out. If you know what I mean. Rule it out. Okay? Don't be quizzy. Don't be chicken-hearted. Okay? You have to be executive. We need a nimble, parsimonious report. What is parsimony? It's not parsimonia, like in Spanish. Parsimony in English is elegant. It doesn't have anything not necessary. Doesn't have any extra, unnecessary extra. Doesn't have any waste. It doesn't have any unnecessary extent. It has what it has to have. Salvador, you're not being clear. Yes, I am being deliberately confusing. Use your judgment. You're a pro. You're a professional. Make a case. Build a business case as you do in your business, in your company. Build me a business case for this product and this country. You know what I'm talking about. That's what your boss asks you to do. A business case. Now, the beauty of this is you have structure. You have beautiful structure. You have all what you need. Your task is so easy. You already have the thinking thing. All you have to do is to start discerning and start cropping out the stuff that you see. It's secondary. It doesn't add. So what happens is, along the way, I happen to find and stumble into counter trade. Well, go back and include it. For crying out loud. Who cares? Are you going to deduct points for me to be? No, it's your thinking. If your thinking is poor, if your report is boring and sloppy, if you don't make a solid case as an MBA student, then I'll give you an ugly C. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to be very careful when putting this thing into writing. Okay? Why? Because it has to be professional. It has to be something you really want to show off when you are looking for another job or getting a promotion. It's a trait. It's an ability. It's a skill that you will get. You have to master it. You have to work it from here. Okay? So work with it. Start thinking. Get excited because it'll be quite a ride. It'll be quite a ride. You want an A? You need like 120 hours. Okay? And you got like what? Like 10 weeks. Good, that's the ugly bad news. Good news, this is quite a few of you in your team. If you're efficient, if you know how to divide your tasks, if you know how to put everything together, you have one person in charge of writing the whole document so it will have one single writing style, you'll be smart. Okay? And you put everything together. A lot of work? Yes. My challenge is different to my counterpart professor, which is number crunching, huh? Are you doing number crunching? Are you doing the other something? I forgot. You're taking quant methods or something with a other whatever. Okay? You know what I mean. I am no cheap. I'm not going to give my class away. It's just different type of challenge. Fascinating, by the way, because I am betting on the fact that you will enjoy doing this thing. It is beautiful. It's like working with the Wikipedia of knowledge. It is fascinating to get to know the deep level of knowledge of one country. How is humor in that country? What kind of instance can we do? What are the issues? how these people happen to be so similar to us. That's you know, sometimes one realization you come up with along the way that is shocking. Oh boy, I thought that we were so different, and yet we're so similar in many ways. Okay, we're not there yet for you to use multimedia stuff. We will go as far as putting together a work report with you know, profuse use of images. Okay. Tania Gomez, okay, what do we have? We don't have any more questions. Okay, so that's what I had to say for tonight. Okay, I hope that you guys have a good time. Well, a little bit on everything. What was the deal with FEMSA and Heineken? What is that? I'll answer that for you. It's a little bit of everything. It's an evolutionary process. Actually, FEMSA became a globalized company because it had access to all the channels of Heineken in the rest of the world, practically, you know, by means of being sold, and vice versa. With the money that they actually created, they became a conglomerate in the Coke business, and now they're the #3 bottler in the world. And by the way, they're also expanding also like crazy. So this leverage buyout actually created a brand new situation. But you know, Mr. Fernandez was so much criticized because that move. He's selling the soul of the company. How in the world is he selling the beer business? Because it's tanking, my friend. All the stuff that, you know, somehow is questionable for your personal health or your social norms, it is like tobacco. It is like junk food, that kind of stuff. So these guys are really, really smart. You might say Coca-Cola is the same thing. Yes, Coca-Cola is no longer the Coke business. It's the water business, and you know that. So that's the thing. Ladies and gentlemen, good night. I'll see you next week. Have a great time. Start working with your final projects and also with your cases with David. Thanks very much. If you have any questions or comments, send me a line on email. Good night. Thank you.